Hey there, I'm Kat, and this is Brews and Reviews. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys a recap and a review of The Stolen Heir by Holly Black. This is book 1 in the Stolen Heir duology. Given that I'm going to recap everything that happened in this book, there will obviously be spoilers, so this video won't be for you if you are interested in something spoiler-free. Sorry about it, not for you. I'm going to put this book down now because you don't need me to hold it. You know what book I'm talking about. So, The Stolen Heir takes place 8 years after the events of the Queen of Nothing, and that's commonly referred to as the Battle of the Serpent, when Carden was turned into a serpent, and there was no actual battle, but you know, Battle of the Serpent it is. Our perspective character for this book is Queen Seren of the Court of Teeth, who was briefly mentioned in Queen of Nothing and was kind of being controlled by her parents using this magical bridle. Oak did convince Jude to free her at the end of Queen of Nothing, and she ended up away from court. She didn't want to be a part of the Court of Teeth and she went back to the human world. So when this book starts, Seren is in the human world and she goes by the name Ren, which is what I'll call her throughout this because otherwise it gets confusing. She's a changeling child, so she grew up in a human family believing that that family was hers until she was 7 and her fairy parents came to get her, revealed what she looked like underneath her glamour, and her foster parents were like, whoa, that's scary, please get out. So they kind of kicked her out and she went away. And now that she's older, she's living in the wild, spying on her family, or her unfamily as she likes to call them, because her real family liked to torture her every time that she mentioned them as her real family and wanting to go home to them. So Ren has been basically living alone in the forest for like 2 years, and the only thing she really does is go around breaking curses that have been put on mortals because she doesn't want anyone to be trapped by things the way that she was trapped by things. A hag called Bogdana comes to find Ren and basically tries to get her to come back to Fairy with her, but Ren runs away because she's like, no, I'm not going back there. That is a horrible place. I don't have any desire to be anywhere near any of those people ever again. And then she promptly runs into Prince Oak, a guy called Tiernan, who looks like a knight, but we actually find out later that he is one of Jude's Court of Shadows. And they have a prisoner called Hyacinth, who is half falcon, and he's wearing the bridle that Ren used to wear. So obviously she's not best pleased, but she does become their prisoner for like a short moment of time. And Oak explains why they were looking for her and what's going on in the fairy world. So Ren's mother, who is a horrible lady, has decided to take over the Court of Teeth in Ren's absence, and she's building an army out of the people who were turned into falcons by buying their allegiance by feeding them from her own hand so that they can turn back into fairies because they obviously hadn't harmed a creature in a year. It's also revealed that the secret tunnels that were collapsed in the Cruel Prince series weren't just collapsed because they were a method for spies to get around. They were collapsed as a distraction so Lady Nor could go and collect Mab's finger bones. Now Mab is the first ruler of Fairy and her bones didn't decay, so they're just sort of sitting there holding a lot of magical properties, and they were immensely powerful if they're used. So Lady Nor's got those bones and it's a sad time. Now Oak needs Ren because Jude made Lady Nor and her husband become subservient to Ren and have to do anything that Ren says, and they are bound by that, so anything that Ren tells them to do, they have to do. So it's kind of important to get Ren to Lady Nor to stop her from causing some absolute mayhem. So Ren agrees to go on this quest because otherwise she's probably just going to be hunted down by Bogdana or the rest of Lady Nor's minions, because obviously Lady Nor wants to get rid of this person who can have absolute control over her. The first stop on this quest is to visit this Thistle Witch who can use her dowsing rod to locate Melith's heart. But the problem is the Thistle Witch lives in this place where if you try and find her then you're going to get lost, so they have to go and visit the Court of Moths first. Now let's just briefly talk about Melith's heart. Now Mab was granted an immense amount of power by a hag, and in return for that immense amount of power she had to make the hag's daughter her heir and keep her close to her at all times. But when Mab had a child of her own she was like, I don't need this hag child anymore, so I need to get rid of it. So the hag tried to kill Mab's child, but inadvertently killed Melith instead. So the hag put a curse on Mab and said, if you don't keep the heart of my daughter Melith near you at all times, then your power is going to be a shade of what it once was. So Melith's heart is quite an important feature of this whole adventure. Now Ren, Oak, Tiernan and Hyacinth, who is the falcon guy, are taken before the queen in the Court of Moths. And luckily for Ren she gets a makeover because she's been living rough for a while, she's a bit stinky dirty, it's a bad time, and now she gets to look prettier and she has a little flirty moment with Oak. They end up kissing a little bit, but it's nothing, right? It's nothing, right? Hyacinth is separated from them and taken to the prison, but Oak has Tiernan take off the bridle from him so that the bridle didn't fall into the wrong hands. Tiernan and Hyacinth used to date, not sure how relevant that is, but just thought I'd bring it up anyway. The Queen of Moths reveals that Queen Nor has captured Maddock, who is Oak's father, and Ren starts to understand that there might be more that Oak is not telling her about this quest northward, and she decides that she needs to start figuring out what else is going on. So her first trip is to go and see Hyacinth in the prison. She barters with this Kelpie to cause a distraction and then goes to see Hyacinth and is like, what's going on? And he's like, well, Oak's mum was a gankanart, or a love talker, someone who can pour sweet words into people's ears and convince them to do what they want and all that sort of thing. So that makes her even more wary of Oak. So she manages to figure out how to free Hyacinth from his prison, and at the same time frees a random human girl and a spy from the undersea. She also manages to unravel the Falcon curse on Hyacinth, and he immediately pledges himself to her because he's like, great, I'm not turning back into a falcon. This is wonderful. I pledge myself to you. So that's what he does. And then he runs off to Lady Nor's court because he's like, listen, while this stuff is all going on, I'm just gonna hang out there. And she's like, yeah, all right. And then she immediately gets caught. And the Queen of Moths is really not happy about this. The Queen wants her to be imprisoned and take the place of the people that she freed. However, Oak is like, no, I need her. That would be very inconvenient to me. I will duel for her freedom. So he ends up fighting this ogre that punched him previously, and he basically hustles this guy into winning this fight and accidentally kills the guy, and he's like, oops. And I don't know if we're meant to believe that he feels bad about it, but I definitely don't think he does. And here is where we find out that Oak is very good at playing people and very good at convincing people that he is far less capable than he is. He is a very, very capable swordsman, particularly in the art of dealing death. So they manage to get out of this situation in the Court of Moths, go to see the Thistlewit, and this is where we find out about Melith's heart and how it needs to be used with the Fingerbones. Now, even after everyone is kind of feeling a bit betrayed by Ren and not sure whether they can trust her or not because she freed Hyacinth and sort of unraveled some of their plans, she manages to convince them to let her come north with them. And she's sort of playing a long game because she's fairly certain that Oak is intending to trade her to Lady Nor in exchange for his father. And she's like, well, I don't want that. So she's trying to figure out where she stands and how much she can trust Oak. Bogdana, the hag from the beginning, shows up and talks to Ren about how she was made, and it turns out that she was not a born child, but in fact she was crafted and imbued with blood, and that is how she was made, rather than actually just being like a regular fae being. So Ren's naturally pretty depressed about that and starts having an existential crisis about, like, is she real or not? Is she just like an animated mannequin at this point? Who knows? So she tries to run away. She steals the bridle, hops over to the human lands, gets in touch with that girl that she saved from the Court of Moths prison, and is like, oh good, you're fine, great, wonderful. And then her bus promptly breaks down and she has to go back to the others, who already knew she was trying to escape, because when she had tried to steal the bridle earlier, Oak had immediately stole it back. Because everyone in this series is an expert thief, but nobody is very good at telling when something has been stolen from them, apparently. So the group then go to the Undry Market, and they get this reliquary where Oak puts in a deer heart, and he says that this is the plan. I'm going to trade this deer heart that is put inside this enchanted reliquary, and she'll think that it's Melith's heart, and she'll, like, make the trade. And he tells Ren that he was never planning to trade her, so that's nice. They do some flirting, and they both enjoy that. Then they get into a fight with the people they're supposed to be buying a boat from, and just sail off on a ferry boat. Oak kisses a mermaid that he once dated and tried to drown him, and she tries to drown him again, and he's like, nah, I'm good, thanks. I'm good. At this point, there is a second hint that there is going to be a war in the Undersea because Queen Orla is not doing so well at this point in time. But they're just like, cool, we've got land problems, so we don't care right now. When they get back to land, they end up in this forest of stone where a bunch of trolls live and they can't leave for some reason. Oak gets poisoned, and then he's like, it's okay, it's fine, I'll be fine. Because I was poisoned as a baby and now I'm just good with poison, I'll be fine. And everyone else is like, not so sure about that, but they manage to escape from these trolls and end up in the Court of Teeth. Ren and Oak have a nice little heart-to-heart, and she tells him a little bit more about her past and how much she hated it in this place, and she's like, please do not leave me here. That's the payment I want for winning a game against you as a child, because there's like a nice little flashback scene at the beginning when they were kids that were set during Queen of Nothing. They are pretty much immediately captured and taken before Lady Nor. Oak says he's brought Melith's heart north, but he doesn't have it with him. And then Queen Nor puts something inside Ren's mouth, and then she immediately starts to say that she renounces all claim over Lady Nor and manages to bite her tongue to stop herself from doing that. So Lady Nor starts trying anything to convince Ren to speak, including promising to send her back to her unfamily back in the human realm and glamour her so that nobody would ever know that there was anything different about her. But then that doesn't work, so she decides to cut Ren's tongue out instead, and technically that stopped Ren from giving any orders, but like, wow, motherhood. So Oak and Ren get taken to the dungeons and they get put in the same cell as Maddock, and Ren falls unconscious. She wakes up and overhears a conversation between Maddock and Oak, and it basically sounds like he is betraying her and knows some things that he's not going to tell her. And Maddock's like, well, I've got plans, I've got machinations, because I can't stop myself, you know, I really just can't stop myself from putting fingers in pies. And it is later revealed that Oak didn't really know anything about these plans, so she's very suspicious and decides that she needs to figure out a way out of this that isn't going to end with her being in trouble or under the control of the bridal. So Hyacinth pops up again, having gone to the north as he said he would, and he manages to get her out of her cell. So she goes off, finds a little sliver of Mab's bones, puts it in her mouth, and her tongue is magically healed. Wonderful, she can talk again, hooray! Then she immediately gets captured again, goes to Lady Nor's rooms, and says, Lady Nor, shut up, and basically takes control of Lady Nor. She has Oak brought to them, and then they arrange to go and pick up Melith's heart. When they get there, however, Lady Nor manages to hint to the Troll King, who wants Melith's heart to free his people from the Stone Forest, that she is under Ren's control, and somebody shoots Ren, and she's like, whoa, this is bad. And then Ren takes complete control, as she realizes that Bogdana is in fact her real mother, and gave her daughter to Mab, and then subsequently accidentally killed her own daughter, but put her daughter's heart inside the creature that she was making for the Court of Teeth, and therefore Ren has Melith's heart inside her and is not just an animated object. She's an extremely powerful being. So much so that when she tells Lady Nor that she wants her to die, Lady Nor immediately explodes everywhere, and then Ren's like, what? Ren breaks the curse on the trolls anyway, and then she's like, right, everyone else, you can go. Oak is staying with me. She puts the bridle on him, so he has no choice but to stay with her, and then the book ends with her in control of the Court of Teeth and finding that she might quite like being in control, might quite like being a little bit nastier than she thought she would. So that is the end of the recap. I'm just going to talk about some thoughts while I've got you here. If you want to stay, if you don't, it's cool. So first off, I want to say I read the Cruel Prince trilogy plus the 2 novellas that go along with it right before I read this book, so it was a little bit strange for me to go from reading those perspectives, where all of the perspective characters for that are like a little bit more in control of their machinations and all of the things that they are working towards. They are a little bit more active in it. Whereas it feels a little bit like Ren in this book just really doesn't want to be involved in stuff and then is just going on with it because she has to. And I don't think that's a bad thing. But it is really funny because I think Oak knows a lot more than he's saying, and he has a lot more plans than he is choosing to share with her, and you kind of just waiting for those plans to come out because you're like, yeah, there's a lot more going on here, because there is no way Oak's family would have let him go into any situation without like 17 different fallout plans, and I just think it's really fun to see that from a different perspective of somebody who is not quite playing the same game. So I think the perspective is really interesting. I also think it's quite interesting because, as we know from the Cruel Prince series, Oak was at least loved, even if he was used in like political movements here, there, and everywhere. He was at least loved by his family, whereas Ren, well, she was loved by a human family until they were sort of glamoured to reject her, and then she just doesn't really think that anyone loves her, and it's kind of just a sad existence. So it's a really different type of perspective, but a really interesting one. I do really like Oak. I do forget that he has goat feet. I don't know why, but it just immediately falls out of my brain, and I like it that way because goat feet. I do feel like it's really obvious that he's absolutely in love with Ren, and the reason that he didn't want her to go north, because he said so and he can't lie, is because he didn't want to put her in any danger, rather than because he didn't want her there. But Ren is very, very oblivious to this, even though he keeps kissing her. And they keep dancing and doing like flirty things, and he did her hair that one time, and it was really cute. And I'm like, well, can you just admit that you like each other, please? Because I just get to the point. I can't wait to see where their romance goes in the next one, even though they kind of are enemies at this point in time. Oak is literally forced to do what she said. Although, I don't know if this is just a foresight or if I just missed something, but I think her hair is wound around the bridle at the same time as it's on him, so technically I think they're bound together, but I don't really know. Maybe I just missed something there. I think I probably did. I feel like the way that Ren went kind of evil at the end was actually really fun. I like it when people are pushed to the edge and they're like, oh, just fuck it. Fuck it all, because I feel like more people would have that reaction than do in these sort of books. So that was really interesting to see, though I do think there's going to be quite significant repercussions of her taking Oak prisoner. I feel like Jude and Carden probably not going to like that. Jude's really not going to like that. But yeah, I think this book is interesting, although it has a very different format from the others. It is very much a quest. You go from one place to another, to another, to another, until you get to the end destination. And I feel like we haven't really gotten to the deeper plot of what's actually going to happen next. I don't know. It felt like throughout the Cruel Prince trilogy, there was an overarching thing of who is going to be sitting on the throne, whereas maybe this will come back in the second book. I don't know, but I feel like this book was very much just like, we're going from here to here. We're gonna free Maddox. What's going on with Maddox? Has he come up with even more plans? What is he doing at this point in time? I'm intrigued. I really hope that there is not going to be too much conflict between Ren and Jude, because I want them to get along. I want them to get along and be happy. But that is mostly just because I just want people to be happy, and I really want Jude to get her happiness after all of the crap from the Cruel Prince stuff. So, you know, those are very brief thoughts that I had about The Stolen Heir, and I enjoyed the book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It didn't grip me as much as the previous book, but I think that was because there was a lot more political stuff in the previous ones, and that's what I mainly enjoyed about the Cruel Prince ones, whereas this one has some politics but is mostly just a quest. And it just didn't hit quite as hard as the rest of the stuff. I'm very intrigued to see what happens in the next book, and luckily the day this video is going up is the day where the second book releases in this duology, so I can find out immediately. And I hope if you made it this far into the video, I hope you also have read the first book, because otherwise I just spoiled the hell out of it for you, and you get to find out too. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!